Hi everybody and welcome to the FPL Family YouTube channel. I'm Sam and I'm here to talk to you about my first draft. Very exciting day today when the game finally launched. After a couple of days worth of price reveals from our Premier League teams, suddenly we are in a place where we have an official game and we can start tinkering with our teams. This morning I set up my team. Best in the Alderweireld again this season. I think I'm going to be best in the Alderweireld until Toby is no longer a Spurs player, which hopefully is not for a very, very, very long time. And I auto-filled my team, so we can have a little look at the auto-fill team that we have. I mean, auto-fill teams are a bit bonkers, aren't they? Always have some kind of crazy picks in there. So as you'll see from mine, I ended up with Martinez and Lloris. Lot of money spent there on goalkeepers. Zuma and Chilwell from Chelsea. Double up on Man City as well with Laporte and Zinchenko. Little bit of splattering of Johnny Evans and Leicester in there too. Zaha, Sigurdsson, Maddison, Torres, Lingard, Lacazette, Werner and Cavani. It is an interesting mix of players, that is for sure. Now, for me, when I am setting up my FPL team, I always like to start with the big hitters, the ones that I absolutely know I want to have in my FPL team for the opening game week of the season, or at least the ones that I think at the moment I want to have for the start of the season. So what I'm going to do is take them all out and then start adding some players in. So for me, one of the first players that I definitely know that I want is Mohamed Salah. Very expensive, of course, as we know, but equally he is a phenomenal talent and I am definitely not starting the season without him. Same can absolutely be said about Bruno Fernandes. Those two taking up a hefty chunk of budget, but they are two players that I don't want to compromise on. They're players that I really want in there. And as you'll have heard me say a couple of times over the last couple of weeks, the way that I like to play FPL, particularly at the start of the season, is to really think about pricing across the positions. I find that it's much easier for me as somebody who likes to hold my wild card, not play it straight away and have it for maybe game weeks 8, 9, 10, something like that. If you spread your budget across the entire squad in terms of those different position points, that makes it a lot easier to move players around. So, in goes Harry Kane. For now, at least anyway. It's nice to see him still sat there in a Spurs shirt, isn't it? Let's see how much longer that goes on for. But these three, I think, are kind of going to be pivotal in the way that I'm going to set up my team. I want to have them in there because they're the ones that are going to give me some balance, which means that I can go anywhere from them. Another player that I definitely know that I want up top is definitely not Werner. It is Ollie Watkins. In you go, Ollie. Now, he isn't normally one of the early picks that I put in, but he's one that I do know on the back of last season that I really do want to own again this season. Now let's move around and look at the defence. So there are a couple that I definitely know that I would like to have in there. Not all of them expensive actually, and definitely not Kurt Zuma. But first one is Luke Shaw, so let's grab him. Luke Shaw at Manchester United. I think for me, he was a phenomenal pick for a large chunk of last season, racking up the clean sheet points, but also in terms of attacking potential. His position in that team is fairly secure as well, so no real rotation risk with him. I would like him in there. I would also like Ruben Dias in there from Manchester City. So let's pop him in for now, and then we'll see where we are in terms of budget. There are some really nice budget players that I would like in defence though. So this time around we're going to select a budget player because I think that actually there are some really good options in the 4.5 bracket. The one in particular that I am going to look for, I think I'll search for him, it'd be quicker. Here he is. Soralto at Watford. I think for 4.5 million, the Watford defence looks really nice. You can go Danny Rose. There's some other options there. Of course there are at Watford, but I really like the look of him. I think I'm going to go with rotating keepers at the back. I would like Martinez, but he's just a lot of money this season, isn't he? So I think it makes a lot of sense to stick with Sanchez for this season and probably have somebody to rotate alongside him. Now, of course, so far, That is a large, hefty chunk of budget. I've got 35 million to go, and obviously going to need to fill out quite a bit of my team still. Other players that I think look like really nice value, and I don't know whether they're actually going to fit. Oh, remove Cavani and replace him with. We're going to go with Tony. I like the fixtures that they have to start the season. I love his record in the Championship. Really enjoy watching him. So he's one that I would kind of like to make work, I think. Now, we are getting a bit tight on budget, as is always the case, because I've got these big heavy hitters as well across the rest of the team. So let's have a little think about where we go next. Now, another player that I do really like in midfield is Rafinha. I think Rafinha's budget looks to be really, really attractive. 6.5 million for somebody like Rafinha could be really, really nice. Now, 22 million left. It's going to be a struggle here, guys, but let's see where we go. Yves Bissouma nearly always, I don't know why I keep clicking on that. Yves Bissouma nearly always makes it into my starting 11, my starting for 15 at the beginning of the season. I like him as a really nice budget enabler. I think one of the things that I learned from last season is that it's really important to get on board with players that you think are going to have a really good start to the season quickly. And in order to do that, you need to have some really nice budget enablers. Now, Bissouma guaranteed to play every week if he stays at Brighton, and I suspect he might. We're not hearing a lot of whisperings about him moving at the moment, so I think we might be okay there. But he is one that I am definitely keeping my eyes peeled on. I think he needs to be in and around my starting 15 in order that I can budget for all of these other guys, because as you can see at the moment, there's still not a lot of value. Well, I still need another midfielder, and I would like to have a decent chunk of budget to spend on those. As a result of that, I'm going to be looking to invest some value at the back. So one other player that I think could be worth a little shout this season, another cheap option to go into defence, is Mitchell. Now, Mitchell at 4.5 million, I was a little bit disappointed actually this morning, I've got to be honest, when the game launched. Nathan Ferguson is a player that I owned for far too long, if we're really honest, last season. He was a player that, I probably shouldn't have owned him for as long as I did, but hey-ho, it was necessary at the time. Or I thought it was necessary at the time. He came in, he went on my wild card, of course, when it was quite abundantly clear that he wasn't going to get any game time. He's due back at the end of November this time, and having not played for the entirety of last season, I was fully expecting that he would come in at 4.0. I wasn't anticipating that he would come in at 4.5. And looking at 4.5 million defenders, there are some really, really nice options there. If we have a little look down in that 4.5 bracket, players like Cody, we don't really know what kind of balls we're going to get this season. The Brighton defenders, I think, look like really nice value, don't they? Sanchez, of course, I've got as my goalkeeper at the moment, but you look around the rest of that team, and we saw how last year Veltman was great, so he could be a great option. Lamptey, when fit and available, could be a really nice option. Who else have we got down here? There's really quite a lot of really nice, decent options in this 4.5 list. Lascelles at Newcastle's also down there, and then when we click down to the 4.0s, this is where I was expecting to see Ferguson, given that he hadn't played for so much of last season. But actually there's nobody in there that I'm looking at thinking there's a lot of game time in you. I'm not convinced that we're going to see any of these guys really necessarily nailing a spot in the starting 11, which is a shame, because it's really lovely to have a 4.0 million defender. It enables you to do so much more across the rest of the side. The way that my team's kind of setting up, it looks like I'm going to be playing 3 at the top if I stick with Kane. Kane's going to be the one that, if he doesn't stick around, might just enable me to kind of have some more budget elsewhere, but we'll need to have a little look at that. In order to kind of make this work, I'm really struggling already on budget. As you can see, I'm probably going to have to take somebody else out in order to make this one work. But that's not necessarily terrible. I just need to kind of have a little think and a little play around with it. In terms of the back line, though, I think another 4.5 million defender is probably going to be the way that I have to go here. Probably going to then be looking at one of the Leeds boys, maybe Cooper. Let's add him in for now, which leaves me with 8.5 million to spend across these two players. That would leave me basically having to go with a 4.5 million in here, which, well, let's see. I imagine we've got fairly slim pickings. I've already got Basuma. I don't really necessarily want to have two 4.5 million midfielders. That is definitely not ideal at all. Let's have a little look. Yeah, see, there's nobody really in there that I'm thinking is going to get loads and loads of game time. So the question is then, if we're going to, and this is how I like to do my team, I like to really think about what I'm doing, have a little play, put in these budget options, put in the players that I know that I definitely want, and then move around from there. So could take out Ruben Dias and replace him with a 5.5 or a 5.0 defender. That would give me a little bit more budget to work with across the rest of my team. Or the other option is that we do this and take out Harry Kane, which actually hurts a lot. And that will enable a lot of things to happen, because the other person up top that I think is really nice value is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Now, Dominic Calvert-Lewin has a really lovely start to the season, a far better start to the season than Kane does. And of course, we don't really know where Kane's going to be. I can see Calvert-Lewin taking a lot of price rises over the next few months across the beginning part of the season in particular. Just out of interest, how's Kane's ownership looking at the moment? Yeah, look, 18.5% of teams with Kane in. Oh, I don't know if I can physically bring myself to build a squad without him. Ollie Watkins already owned by 29% of the game, and Calvert-Lewin by 24% of the game. So they are looking like popular options. But in doing that, of course, I've given myself a load of budget. Now, I think we can safely go for rotating 4.5s. That's going to be my option, I think, in defence. Looking at across them, they've priced them really interestingly, I think, this year, haven't they? We've got, obviously, both the Southampton keepers, because we don't know which one's going to play. We've got both the Newcastle keepers in there. And then we've got a lot of the spare keepers, of course, in there too. But we have got Gaeta at Crystal Palace, who I could go with, take Mitchell out and put in somebody else instead of him. So if we added in Gaeta there, took out Mitchell, I've got 13 million to spend across the rest of this. Now, if I made... Let's have a little look into our midfield. So Lingard, who was in my original squad, I think potentially is a good option if he gets his move to West Ham. If he does, then Lingard might actually get a stay of execution, and he might be the only one from that draft team that actually manages to stay. Bigger question is, what happens if I go with the double up in the Liverpool midfield? Yeah, see, so that could work. Liverpool have a really nice start to the season, covered up on doubling them then. Does mean I don't have a Liverpool defender the way that this squad is laying out, but it's not the end of the world. And that leaves me with 5.5 million to spend on a defender. So if we go for a 5.5 million, get rid of the search that's on, then that leaves me with some really nice options there. So we've got Creswell, I've got Wan-Bissaka, but I'm not going to go with Wan-Bissaka because I've already got Luke Shaw. Could go with an Aston Villa defender. I do quite like the look of Lewis Dunk, but again, I've got Sanchez, so I'm not sure I want to double up there. Could save a bit of money rather than going Creswell and go Soufal. That is a potential option. Or more likely, I can go with Luca Dean. Now, Luca Dean, obviously, has a beautiful start to the season, a really nice run of fixtures for Everton to start the campaign off. So he is one that I am kind of looking at. Building a squad like this with only those two premiums in the middle does give me a lot of flexibility. It still doesn't quite do what I wanted it to do, which is give me the ability to have Harry Kane. This very much is similar to what happened last season during pre-season. I watched the rest of the FPL community invest in Werner over Kane and was very much in the, I have to own Harry Kane camp. And you'll notice I've built a squad here without any Spurs players in at all. And I think it's going to stay like that until Spurs eventually hire a manager. So I think for me, I would really like to have Kane in there as a really pivotal point of making the rest of the team work and of being able to make those transfers around the rest of the squad fairly easily and in a straightforward manner. But in doing this, it gives me rotating 4.5s, which I do think is a nice option. Having 2 goalkeepers to start the season feels like it could be a really, really nice idea. It gives me a really nice back line that I would be happy to play 3, 4 or indeed 5 of. I think having Luke Shaw and Diaz and Digne as kind of pivotal points in the back line, with then Sir Alto and Cooper as benchable options, although the Watford defence was so solid last year that I'm expecting to want to play Sir Alto quite a bit, particularly with his aerial threat from corners. And then in the middle, Salah and Fernandes won't go anywhere. Raphinha, I think, is, as I've said already, great value. Gives me a really nice fourth midfielder in Jota as well, with Basuma as my sub, who I will rarely play but is just there. Calvert-Lewin, Watkins and Tony up top feels like a really, really nice front 3. Is there ability to save some money on the forwards? It's a challenge. Like, if we have a little look at replacing Tony, and maybe go for somebody in the slightly cheaper bracket. So let's look at forwards. Let's look at them under 6.5. Where are we? So we could save 0.5 by going Joe Linton or Fabio Silva or Jordan Ayew. Don't think so. And then we've got the Burnley boys here, Vidra, Rodriguez and Barnes. Again, not sure about those guys. Who knows where Giroud and Batshuayi are going to even be playing next season. Then we're kind of down in the Connolly and Nketiah. There's nobody in there that's really setting the world on fire, is there, in terms of, you know, wanting to go for them, particularly when you compare them to Tony, who sits there in that 6.5 bracket but looks to be offering exceptional value, particularly given what he was able to do last season. Of course, there is Pookie, but those fixtures to start the season for Norwich, I mean, I wouldn't, I just can't see it, particularly having watched him in the Euros. I didn't think they had that great a start to the season. Could go with one of the Watford boys, Pedro maybe, would save me a bit more money, a whole million over Tony, could work. But Watford weren't really known for their attacking threat last year. They were more known for their defensive security. So I think I'd rather invest in Brentford up top and invest in Watford in defence. That feels like the best way to do it. Okay, so let's save that down for now. Make these transfers, confirm transfers. Okay, so that would leave me then with an opening day team that had Sanchez in goal. Probably would play Diaz, let's be honest. Switch. I would definitely play Jota, switch, and I would also want to play Watkins, switch, and I would captain Salah, vice captain Bruno, save my team. One more thing, always important to sort your bench order. Save. Okay, so that is currently how my first draft looks then. Sanchez in goal with Digne, Diaz and Shaw. Salah and Jota with Raphinha and Fernandes, Watkins, Calvert-Lewin and Tony. There is definitely a big Harry-shaped Kane hole in this team. I don't know if I can see that lasting. Okay, guys, I will update you, of course, over the course of pre-season as to how this team changes. It will undoubtedly change as the weeks and months go on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like bell, and if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscription button so you'll get notified every time we go live or post a video on the channel. If you aren't already a member of our Patreon, www.patreon.com/FPL Family, it is free throughout the close season, so June and July are not chargeable. If you want to come join us, see if you like it, get access to our Slack channel, get access to our OHANA Podcasts, which are published. One will be published more regularly now that the game has launched again. We'll be delighted to have you. You can always cancel before we start charging again for August. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.